10 types of weapons that the world has banned. Each has its own history and its own reason why even war could not justify them. Explosive bullets. St. Petersburg Declaration, 1868. In 1863, Russian engineers created a bullet that exploded upon impact with the human body. War Minister Count Milutin wrote directly to Emperor Alexander II in a report, "Using such against people is barbarism, not justified by any combat requirements." To incapacitate a soldier, an ordinary bullet is enough. Russia did something that is almost never done with new weapons. It proposed to ban it itself. In November 1868 in St. Petersburg, representatives of 18 countries gathered. On December 11th, all signed the declaration. The ban applied to any projectiles weighing less than 400 grams with explosive or incendiary content. It was the first international treaty in history to prohibit specific weapons. Before it, wars were conducted without rules regarding armaments. The St. Petersburg Declaration established a principle that has since underpinned all international humanitarian law. Weapons causing suffering beyond necessity are unacceptable. Dum-Dum Bullets. The Hague Declaration, 1899. In 1895, the British Army began producing special bullets at a factory in the Indian city of Dum-Dum near Calcutta. The bullet was designed to expand upon entering the body and tear tissues from within. British officers considered it necessary. Ordinary small-caliber bullets, they said, did not sufficiently stop an attacking enemy. In 1898, British troops used these bullets in the Battle of Omdurman in Sudan. Before the battle, soldiers manually filed the bullet tips to enhance the expansion effect. Military surgeons recorded wounds that had no analogues, extensive, torn with bone destruction over a large area. Their reports reached the European press. A scandal erupted instantly. At the Hague Conference of 1899, the issue of Dum-Dum Bullets was put to a vote. 22 countries voted for the ban, 2 opposed, Great Britain and the United States. The United Kingdom never signed the declaration, stating that such bullets were necessary in colonial wars against, as the British delegate put it, savage races. The ban came into effect for everyone else. The extra top. Today, expanding bullets are used by hunters and police worldwide, but they remain banned in international armed conflicts. Chlorine gas. The Geneva Protocol, 1925. On the 22nd of April, 1915, at 17 hours near the Belgian city of Ypres, the German army opened the valves of 5 boi Korea Toitoa da Koia Oienda. Valves swap fiind cu 5,730 cylinders. In a few minutes, 168 tons of chlorine formed a yellow-green cloud and moved towards the French positions. The soldiers did not understand what was happening. Chlorine corroded the mucous membranes, damaged the lungs, and caused blindness. Those who tried to run breathed faster and died faster. About 15,000 people were affected. 5,000 died right on the battlefield. Half of the survivors became disabled. During the next 3 years of the First World War, chemical weapons were used by all sides of the conflict. Phosgene appeared, odorless, colorless, without an antidote. Mustard gas also appeared, which burned the skin through clothing. By the end of the war, more than 90,000 soldiers had died from gas. About 1 million more suffered severe injuries. In 1925, a protocol was signed in Geneva prohibiting the use of chemical and biological weapons in war. Most countries ratified it. The United States did not ratify the protocol until 1975, 50 years after it was signed. Biological weapons. The 1972 Convention. On the 10th of April 1972, 79 states signed a document that, for the first time in history, prohibited not just the use, but the development and production of an entire class of weapons. The Biological Weapons Convention obligated parties to destroy all existing stockpiles. This was a precedent. Nothing like it had existed before. The Soviet Union signed the convention and in the same year began to violate it. In 1973, a secret scientific and production association, Biopreparat, was created in the Soviet Union. Officially, the production of medicines and vaccines, in fact, the largest biological weapons development program in the world. In the 1980s, about 40,000 people worked in the association. Every year, a new type of weapon was created: anthrax, plague, smallpox, Ebola fever, Marburg fever. By 1987, the capabilities of biopreparat allowed for the production of 200 kilograms of dry bacterial cultures of anthrax or plague per week. In 1979, in Sverdlovsk, a worker removed a contaminated filter at the anthrax spore production and forgot to make a record in the logbook. The supervisor of the next shift turned on the equipment. On the 2nd of April, millions of spores were released into the atmosphere. At least 64 people died. The Soviet government declared contaminated meat as the cause of the outbreak. The truth came out only after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when in 1992, President Boris Yeltsin acknowledged the accident and the existence of the program. Convention on Shati Dinandi Bindawashaza. There is no verification mechanism for logical weapons. No inspections, no independent control. Today, 189 states have joined it. None of them can be verified. Napalm. Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, 1980. On the 8th of June 1972, a South Vietnamese pilot dropped an incendiary bomb on the village of Trang Bang. The pilot made a mistake. Civilians were hit. Among them was a 9-year-old girl named Phan Thi Kim Phuch. Napalm is a substance based on thickened gasoline. It burns the skin to the bone and continues to burn even in water. The girl lost her clothes and ran down the road screaming, "Too hot!" Photographer Nick Ott from the Associated Press took the picture. The following year, this picture won the Pulitzer Prize. Napalm was used in wars long before Vietnam, in Korea in the Second World War, during flamethrower attacks on Japanese cities. But it was the Vietnam War and this very photograph that turned it into a symbol of the indiscriminate destruction of civilians. In 1976, under pressure from the international community, negotiations began on the limitation of incendiary weapons. In 1980, Sondoka Zabasachi Mediki, Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons was adopted. It prohibited the use of incendiary weapons from the air in areas with concentrations of civilians, but only from the air. Ground use remained permitted under certain conditions. A complete ban on napalm does not exist to this day. Kim Phuc survived. After 12 operations, she left Vietnam, received asylum in Canada, and founded a fund to help children affected by war. The pilot who dropped the bomb later said in an interview that he did not know there were civilians under the wing. Blinding laser weapons, Protocol 4 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, 1995. In 1995, the Chinese state company Norinco presented a new development at arms exhibitions in Abu Dhabi and the Philippines, the ZM-87 laser rifle. In the promotional materials, it was stated directly, the weapon is intended to damage the enemy's vision. From a distance of 3 kilometers, it permanently blinded a person. With a special lens from 5 kilometers, from 10, it temporarily blinded and disoriented. In the same year, the United States completed the development of its own portable laser system mounted on an M16 rifle. The Army planned to purchase 2,500 units. The program's budget was $80 million. On October 13, 1995, in Vienna, the protocol of the Fourth Convention on Specific Types of Conventional Weapons was adopted. It prohibited laser weapons specifically designed for permanent blinding. This was the first time in history that a weapon was banned preventively before its combat use, while there were still no victims. The American program was shut down. China stopped the production of ZM-87. However, reports periodically appeared in the press that this weapon was spotted in North Korea and the Middle East. Anti-personnel mines. The Ottawa Treaty, 1997. On the 15th of January 1997, Princess Diana, wearing a protective bulletproof vest and a transparent mask, walked across a partially cleared minefield in the Angolan city of Huambo. At that time in Angola, after a 20-year civil war, 9 million mines remained, with a population of 10 million people. Every day, people were killed and maimed by their explosions. Photos of the princess on the minefield went around the world. Anti-personnel mines kill indiscriminately. They do not distinguish between a soldier and a child, do not stop functioning after the war ends, and can remain operational for decades. According to the organization Landmine Monitor, from 1999 to 2017, 120,000 people were killed or injured by them, 87% of whom were civilians. In December 1997, a few months after Diana's death in Paris, 122 countries signed the Ottawa Treaty. It prohibited the use production, stockpiling and transfer of anti-personnel mines. The treaty came into force in March 1999, faster than any other arms agreement in history. Russia, the United States and China did not sign the treaty. At the beginning of 2025, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Finland announced their intention to withdraw from it, citing the increased military threat from Russia. Cluster munitions, issued the Oslo Convention, 2008. In the summer of 2006, during the war in Lebanon, the Israeli army fired about 4 million submunitions from cluster bombs into the country. According to the United Nations, up to 1 million of them did not explode upon impact. When the ceasefire was announced in August, civilians began returning home and started getting blown up by unexploded submunitions, small, brightly colored, resembling toys. A cluster bomb is designed like this. The container opens in the air and scatters hundreds of small submunitions over a wide area. The problem is that 10 to 40% of them do not explode. Later, the trasa once and turn into disguised mines that kill for years. In Laos, where the United States dropped 270 million submunitions during the secret war from 1964 to 1973, unexploded bombs have since killed another 20,000 people. The war in Lebanon gave the final impetus. In February 2007, Norway initiated a negotiation process outside the traditional United Nations platforms. On May 30, 2008, in Dublin, 107 states adopted the Convention on Cluster Munitions. On December 3 of the same year, 94 countries signed it in Oslo. Russia, the United States, and China did not sign the convention. Chemical weapons. The Chemical Weapons Convention, 1997. On the 13th of January 1993 in Paris, 162 states signed the Chemical Weapons Convention. It came into force on the 29th of April 1997. For the first time in history, an international treaty not only prohibited the use of an entire class of weapons of mass destruction, it required their physical destruction under international supervision. At that time, Russia had the largest stockpile of chemical weapons in the world, 40,000 tons. The United States about 28,000 tons. 4 states did not sign the convention. Among them is Syria. On the 21st of August 2013, rockets with warheads containing a total of 350 liters of sarin fell on opposition-held suburbs of Damascus. Hundreds of people were estimated to have died. Sarin is a colorless and odorless nerve agent that blocks nerve impulses and causes death by suffocation within minutes. Under international pressure, on the 14th of September of the same year, Syria signed the convention. In June 2014, the declared stockpiles of chemical weapons were removed from the country and destroyed. But, according to American data, the Syrian regime used chemical weapons at least 50 times since the beginning of the conflict. According to independent data, at least 8 times after signing the convention. Non-removable fragmentary munitions, Protocol 1, Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, 1980, Among the 10 stories in this video, this is the only one where the ban came before the victims. In the late 1970s, several countries began developing munitions whose fragments could not be detected by X-ray upon explosion. Plastic fragments would penetrate tissues, remain there, and continue to cause harm. They could not be extracted surgically.
It could be surgically removed.
The shrapnel wound itself is not fatal, but such a wound turned into chronic torture. Fragments were not found, not removed, and they caused complications for years.
On October 10, 1980, at a United Nations conference in Geneva, the first protocol of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons was adopted. It prohibited any munitions whose primary effect is to cause injuries with fragments that are invisible on X-rays. This was a preventive ban. The weapon existed in development, but had not yet been used on a large scale. The international community decided not to wait until a sufficient number of victims accumulated.